Hey, welcome back to the channel. So that's how you do that. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Joe Latender. I'm glad to have you here. Now today we're going to be installing plank through a dining room into a kitchen, and we have all the little things that come along with it. We're working backwards. We're going around cabinets, going into the cubby holes where the fridge, stove, and the dishwasher go. I also have to do some prep around all of those areas by undercutting some things so we can slide plank underneath some partitions where the fridge is. We have a pantry that we're going to be going into. There's all sorts of good stuff in here for you that you're going to be able to learn a lot from. Now, this is part 2 of this video series. I'm doing a 1,400 square foot house, and in the last video, which I'll put a link up here, I'll also put it in the description at the end of the video, or maybe I'll even just do it the next video that will show. But in that video, we covered all of the basic stuff. I covered how to do the layout. So you can go through and plan your layout throughout the entire house. I used the Layout Buddy, which is a really cool tool to use to be able to not get lost in the math. It really simplifies it, makes you be able to dial in that layout. We also started those very first rows. I show you how to do that. You don't ever want to just start with a full plank, and that's pretty much what the title of that video was. We also went around a fireplace, and now we're gonna start where we finished off in that video. So let's get going. Okay, I want you to see how I set this next part up. So I put a plank in right there, and then I attached another plank to that, and now I'm extending this all the way down. So this is the row that I'm going to be cutting in now with my cheater board. Now if you watched the first video in this series, I did explain in the very beginning during the layout process that I knew I'd have a small piece along this wall. It was the only way that I was able to hit every door inside the install. So it's not a problem to have a small piece like this. It's in an area that it's going to be pretty well hidden. This is the dining room. However, I will use some glue to make sure that we don't have any issues here. I'm going to do this vent a little different. Is all I did was I took my cheater board, I lined it up against the wall, I see where the vent is, and then I made a mark on the wall. Lined it up, made the mark on the wall. So now I know where the sides are. Now, if you check my Layout Buddy, these marks that I made on the vent earlier are the same marks that I'm going to use for this vent. So I'm good to go, and I know where it ends this way, and I know where it ends this way by using the Layout Buddy and the marks on the wall. So I know this part right here, because it's connected to the floor that we already installed, this is nice and solid. It's not going anywhere. Now I know right in here there's a bunch of sheetrock joint compound that builds out. So I want to come in a little bit, maybe about a foot. And I'm just going to take the Layout Buddy and I'm going to mark it right where the plank ends here. Now this is the same distance I'm going to get all of this row away from the wall all the way down. Once I get it there, I'm going to put in a spacer. just gonna mark 3 of them at once here. And then it's nice because then you don't have to get up a bunch of times. It's just 3 times, or 1 time for 3 pieces. I actually don't have to get up because my cutter is right here. Now we're gonna move into the kitchen area, and there's a little bit of prep work that I need to do before I get going in here. That's gonna make my plank installation go so much easier around these cabinets and partitions. So I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. So I'm gonna undercut around this so that the plank can slide underneath it. I don't want to have to put base shoe around this. It's gonna make it look kind of ugly. It's gonna be kind of a hard spot to do. So the easiest thing to do in this situation, undercut using an oscillating saw. So I'm just gonna put a piece of pad under here so it's the right height, and then just use a scrap piece and start undercutting. Once I get a little bit under there, I pull that piece out. And now I want to make sure that when it slides under there, I didn't go down at an angle. Now I'm just going to try to bust it out. Now if I damage something on the inside here, not that big of a deal because no one's ever going to see in here. It's the other side that's more important. So you just got to do what you can do to get it out. And then we'll just slide underneath and make sure we're good. So I've still got a little more to cut out. Now I went over it again while it was slid under because I want this to be nice and loose under here. And that's why I redid it again and took a little more out. Pop that right out. Slide the pad under. Nice and loose. I'm hooking on a piece right here. And now I'm going to hook on another piece that comes around this. And when I put this piece in, I want to make sure that it doesn't line up with any of the other joints of the plank that I installed recently. So I'm looking right here. That looks good. Now I just want to install past the island here just far enough. So this is the last piece I'm going to put in now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge this with this piece, which will make this piece so that it's strong. Now watch, if I pull this out, look at how much this moves then. Okay, it wants to come apart at the joint right there. When I bridge a piece in, it makes it so it doesn't move as much. And if I do move it, it goes right back to where it should be. So I like to bridge it. It forces this part to get straight. Now I'll take my cheetah board and I'll mark this. Now this is actually working out beautifully for me. I thought I might have a little bit of a small piece right here. I knew it was going to be close, but what's actually going to happen here is I'm going to be cutting just a little bit off. So this worked out really well for me when I adjusted my layout. Another one of those spots where you can see how close this was and how the layout buddy really helped me dial in my layout to be able to make sure I made this work. I'll just continue this row to the cabinet. And again, I'm gonna bridge this piece too. And all it's doing is making sure that this whole row stays nice and straight and it won't come apart at the butt joint. Now right here, I know that this plank is solid because it's connected to the floor that we already installed. I wanna measure from this part of the floor to the cabinet. Now I'm going to use the layout buddy and just put it up against the cabinet, and I'm going to measure out to the plank, and I'm going to make a mark, and this mark is going to be right where the plank ends. Now I'm going to use that mark to get it all straight the rest of the way. And I'm just going to measure away from the cabinet, and I'll maneuver this plank to the place where it needs to line up with that mark. All right, since I know all of this is straight, now I'm just gonna make a mark on my tape where this plank ends. So right on my layout buddy, and just so I remember which one it is, I'm just gonna make like a check mark. And I'll just come down here and I'll adjust this plank down here accordingly so that it's straight with that. Now you can only force it so much, so the cabinet could be a little crooked too, because I have it secured right there. If I push too much this way, it's just going to come back. But I'm pretty on. I'm just going to hook on a piece right here. And now I'm going to hook on plank to here. And I want to just adjust this plank so that I don't line up with another joint. And then just keep coming down this way with it. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did. Just make sure it's straight. We're going to bridge it. And then we're going to use the cheater board. Going to make sure it's straight. Leave a little gap there. All that will cut out. Now I'm just going to start putting it all together. Little glue in this joint. Since it's so small. The trim's going to hold it down too, and then the plank's also going to hold it together, but I like to stick a little extra glue in those just to be safe. Now, just for now, I'm not sure what my starter piece is going to be. I'm just going to bridge this. All right, before I go back there and do anything else, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some rows together. Because a telltale sign of your plank being crooked is if it's not going together very well. You can see mine's all going together nicely. So I like that. So I marked this even with the plank here. And I'm probably gonna leave that line on a little because this right here is accounting for my expansion joint up against here. And I actually slid it under a little even so I can see how big my expansion joint will be. See how much that moves. So I need to get it secured. Doesn't move too much, but it moves enough where you can get it crooked. So we want to make sure we get this straight. Okay, now I'm going to get this hooked up and we're going to secure this down. Before I do that, I want to make sure I get it straight with the wall over there. So I'll just make sure that we're straight. I'm using a tape measure this time. Looking pretty good. And then again, we'll come back and work backwards into that later. Okay, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to get this ready to mark these doorways using the cheater board. And so what I do is I just take plank and I line it up right on top of the plank that we just installed. And I line that long joint up with the long joint underneath so the plank, I know then, is perfectly lined up. Now this is one of the more difficult situations of the house where we're coming up to a couple of doorways. And the reason why is because you have to slide the plank underneath the door jamb. It needs to tuck under there to look nice. And you can't lift the plank up at an angle if you tuck it underneath the door jamb. And what I'm talking about is the plank, it has to be installed with the plank at an angle to lock it in. Well, you can't do that if you have to shove this underneath the door jamb. It's not going to be able to be brought up at an angle. You're going to have to come straight in with the plank. Now, this is what the groove looks like right here. You can see it has this little lip on it. We need to cut that lip off, and we're actually going to cut a little more than that off. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it so I can slide the plank together when it's flat. And when I do that, I'll put some glue inside this to hold it together because no longer are we going to be able to depend on the locking system to lock this together. And that's what's going to make this easier to put this plank together with the door jambs. There's also a couple other tips I'm going to share with you. But first, I'm going to start marking this using the cheater board. So I'm just sliding the cheater board under and pushing it that way. So I know it's underneath the jamb. I'm just going to make a mark on this plank where that is. Now I can just square the cheater board up. And I can draw that line. Now I just need to slide it underneath. And then I'll make this mark. Now it's kind of at a weird angle here because I don't have very much room to slide it under. So the other thing I can do is just kind of shove it right next to the jamb here and just make a mark where it's going to end underneath the jamb. I can just put this up against the wall, make a mark there where it ends underneath, and then I can just connect the dots. And this will be the spot that we'll cut out for that part. And then we'll just continue on. Just come out a little bit. A lot of times I just do this and I'll square it up that way. Now again, I can't really get underneath there, so I'm just going to make a couple of marks where the cheater board ends against the wall, where I bring it in a little bit. I know it's going under then. Now I can just connect the dots. I'll come over here so you can see. But I lined this up with the plank underneath, so I'm gonna move my camera here when I do this, but you can see here's the edge of the other plank. I just lined the top edge up so those two joints line up perfectly. Now I was thinking ahead on this whole thing here because I've done it a few times, right? So I only installed this row up to that point right there because I knew that I would have to take it out. And so that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna take this whole row out. And the reason why is because I need to cut this locking system off a little bit, all the way. Same with this piece right here. So now, before I put this row in, I'm gonna put the row in that actually goes underneath the jambs. Just making sure everything moves. Now, another reason why I cut off the locking system as much as I did is because I need for this locking system to clear the other plank and the other locking system. And so when it clears, then I can lift it up at an angle, get it where it needs to go, and then just let it down. And you can see how it went nice and flat now. Now I got to do the same thing up here on this side. I just now that I know that this is going to work and I don't need to do any modifications, now I'm going to actually pull this piece back up. And I'm gonna put some glue in this joint. Now I could have maybe left it on the floor and tried to get some glue in there, but it probably would have been more of a pain in the butt than it was worth. So I'm just gonna throw glue right in this joint. And that is what's gonna hold, whoops, this plank together then. The glue bottle is not cooperating today. Still could be a little messy here, so I might want to have a rag. But because this is a 5G locking system, it makes it really easy to get this plank into place and then just drop it down. Clear the locking system and lock this butt joint in down here. I'm gonna actually be over here so you can better see what's going on and I'm not in the way. I just took a scrap. I have the locking system, which is the tongue, so it can go into the groove. And now I'm just going to start hitting this plank in. And I'm using this so that I don't hit the plank too hard and damage it. Now right here I can use my plank puller. I usually use a rubber mount with this, so this is going to be loud. It's a hammer. And I'm going to start trying to lock this together using this. And then in here, I can go back to just using the plank hammer. Lift up a little. Now because I use glue, that joint's a little fuller, so I'm going to have to really squeeze this out by hitting it hard. You can see it's locking together. I have a little bit of a gap right here. There we go. And now I just want to make sure I get any of that glue off. So you can see doing a couple of doorways there that could actually bring you to tears if you don't know what you're doing. Trust me, they've brought me to tears before I really learned how to do this. I did this on my own. There was no YouTube, so I kind of learned a lot of these tips by myself, and now I'm sharing them with you. So a couple of good tools to help you through this, and then a couple of tips that I just shared on modifying the locking system, pulling that row out, putting that piece in. Those tips are really going to save you a lot of frustration. This is still going to take a little time. So don't get frustrated, just go slow. You'll get this, and it will go good for you. And by the way, a lot of times on those joints, when they don't go together, or when they go together, I'll put some blue tape across there, a couple different spots to hold that plank together so it doesn't come apart. Leave it on overnight, take it off the next day. You'll be good to go. It's called Sylvan. It's made by Floret. This is a product that I installed several months ago. I put a video out on it. It's in my master bedroom / office. It's more my office than my master bedroom. My wife and I both have desks in there. We have our computer chairs, and we put our chairs right on top of the floor. We don't protect the floor at all. And I gotta tell you, that plank has not dented once from our chairs. I've also am very happy with it because I have dogs. I haven't seen any scratches on it. It's really been a floor that's held up really well. The joints are not failing because I'm rolling around on it with my computer chair. Now granted, it's only been 7 months, but I guarantee you that if you're gonna have a plank that has a problem, it's gonna show its face within the first few months. This does have a drop and lock locking system to it, which if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm not a big fan of drop and lock. The difference is that this is a 5G locking system, which is something that I do really like, even though it's a drop and lock. Now it has a little clip inside here, and that's what locks in the butt joint. Now that clip stops it from coming apart and gapping like a lot of those drop and locks do. So that's one of the reasons why I like this, because it has that extra locking power. Plus the other thing I like about this plank is the core is not like a normal engineered wood, which is what this is considered. It's more durable. It's a lot stronger, which is why I'm not denting it when I'm rolling around on it with my computer chair. Has a good scratch resistance to it, has a matte finish, so it doesn't have that real shiny look to it. I really do like that. And the other thing I like is that it's topically waterproof. So when this wood floor gets locked together, which is not like any other wood floor, it seals it. And so you can actually have standing water on this for up to 24 hours. Now I did a water test on that in a different video, which you can go and check out, that Sylvan video where I ran this thing through the ringer with everything. And I could have went longer than 24 hours. When I pulled it apart, it didn't show any signs of any water coming through the joints whatsoever. Now, most of the time, we're gonna catch those spills within that time, And that is one of the reasons why I'm using this in wet areas in this area, in this house. We're gonna be putting it in the kitchen area. We're also gonna be putting it in the bathroom, and you can go an extra step and put some backer around the perimeter, and then put some silicone around the perimeter so that the water will never make it to the edges and seep underneath. Anyway, I just want to let you know that if you want to get some samples to this, I'm going to leave a link below in the description, and you can use my coupon code, so that's how50, and get 50% off those samples. It's also going to let them know that I sent you there, and I really do appreciate that if you do let them know that. So I have another spot here where I have to slide the plank underneath there, and then I also need to go underneath here. Now this is actually going to be pretty simple, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't go too far ahead with my plank. So I only went one or two pieces here, one piece here, just in case I needed to pull this row out to get the pieces in. This is actually going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to line this up again with the plank underneath so that the two locking systems are lined up perfectly. I know that this plank is lined up perfect now. I'm going to take my cheater board, and I'm just going to slide my cheater board underneath. So you can see right here, this is actually a little loose. It should be tight up against the wall. I'm sure that they'll fix that. So I want to make sure that when I do this, that I'm leaving an expansion joint right there. Now I'm just going to mark it right where the cheater board ends. I'm going to start on my locking system. So it's right about there. Now I can just take my cheater board, slide it under until it hits, and then I'll make another mark right here. So I know that this is what I need to cut out. I'm just going to square my cheater board up on here, make my mark. That's what it's going to look like right there. Get it in place, locked in so it drops down. Now I'm going to take a piece that I made here for a scrap piece. I'm going to connect it on here. Usually you just want to square up on it and start hitting it. I want you to see it go under, so I'm going to step back a little so you can see right here, back here. So now that's in place, and you can see if I push on that, I get my proper expansion joint there. It's underneath here, so now we won't need to trim that with any quarter round. Now I left this row out just in case I needed to pull this one. I don't need to, so now I'm going to start putting this together. Now this next one, I'm going to get it in, slide it as far as I can until I hit right here, drop it down. Now we're just going to start sliding it that way. You might need to use the pull bar to do this, but I can actually do this without. And then I'm just gonna slide it till it locks. Now it went that way a little with this plank, so try to slide it back a little. There we go. Now I like to do multiple rows at once. So we're going to cut in underneath the cabinet now. Now for this next piece, I'm going to do something a little different here because I'm trying to make it so that I can slide underneath this part right here, just like what we did with the last piece, but I don't need to slide all the way through. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Right now I'm just lining the plank up. And I just need to go enough plank to get past the corner of the cabinet. Now what I'm talking about is I'm going to bring this plank so it ends right here. And then I'm going to carry this piece on over there. But I'm going to leave an expansion joint on the inside here because that's where the fridge goes. Here, I want it to slide underneath this over here so that it looks like it's flowing continually without using any trim down there. I'll show you a better close-up in a minute. You're gonna understand what I'm doing after you watch. So I'm gonna take my cheater board and I'm gonna connect it to another board, one that's not modified at all. And this is called the double cheater board method. Two of these together, because I pulled this piece right here out another row. Here's that row, that's usually where I would position this. I positioned it 2 rows out, so now I'm using a double cheater board. I could put it out here 3 rows and then just attach another piece of this and have the triple cheater board method. The reason why I'm doing this is because this is in the way for me to be able to position this to mark it. And so I'm just gonna slide it up against the cabinet, and then I'm gonna start marking just like I normally would using the cheater board. Now, because I want this to slide under this a little bit, is all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move my cheater board a little bit. So I know that I'm underneath there. I'm gonna make a mark. This is where I wanna cut right here. And you'll see once this is all done, and I'm actually gonna end up cutting out here too. So I might as well just mark this to show you. So this will actually be marked all the way out. So this will be where the cut is, but it'll go underneath that. Now I'm just gonna hook on the cheater board again. You can see how I have my cheater board there up against the cabinet, and you can see how I'm marking this. And then I'll just continue marking all the way. Okay, so what I do here, which I already marked, and I missed it on the camera because I didn't press record, I just line these 2 cheater boards up, and I brought it past the cabinet about a 1/4 inch, and then I just finished drawing my line this way and this way. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first here is slide this piece in. And then it's gotta go that way. And I'm gonna have to give it a little love with my plank hammer to get it to go. Now I'm going to take my next piece and put that in. To get it to lock into the joint. Now this is the other end where I can just stick this right here. So now we're going to be doing what I consider working backwards. Now working backwards is working away from the tongue side. This whole time I've been working away from the groove side, which is the easiest way and the proper way to install the plank. Now that we're going to work away from the tongue side, it kind of makes it a little bit different. So the plank doesn't go together quite as easy as it would going away from the groove. There's a few tips I'm going to share with you during this that you can use to help you get through this a lot easier. It's just slower. The other thing is if you damage the groove when you're using like a tapping block, like the plank hammer, it really doesn't affect the plank much at all, okay? Now once you damage the tongue side, the plank isn't going to go together. So that's really where the big thing is that people struggle with, is because they damage the tongue, they can't get the plank together. So I'm going to show you some different tips that you can use to make sure that you don't damage the tongue. Also, using something like the plank hammer, because the handle is the way it is, how it's designed, and it's nice and long, and you can grip it in a bunch of different ways. You can get a lot of finesse when you use this. And so this right here is something that would really help you with this. And I'm going to show you all those techniques right now. So what I like to do is just try to get that groove started. And if you slide it back and forth and work it like that, you'll be able to get it so it gets into the proper seating. And you're just going to let it drop down. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. You can use a scrap piece. I cut this scrap piece right here so that we have the groove side on there to be able to hook this onto the plank and then use our tapping block to hit it, so you won't damage the tongue. So that's the first way to do it. Now the second way to do it would be using the tapping block. Now with this, if I go really light, you can see how the plank drops. Now with this plank, because of how easy it is to install, it actually does go pretty well working backwards. There are some areas that we'll have a little struggle with, but using something like this is going to make it, if you can go and use some finesse, you're not going to damage the tongue. So again, just go ahead and slide it a couple times back and forth till it gets in the track. I'm holding it nice and firm. Then I'm going to drop it down. Hit it really lightly. Now it's all seated. So that's nice. That worked out really well. Just to make sure that that holds. Not too much, just enough. Now to figure this piece out, we're just gonna hook on a scrap there. And I just want to make sure none of my joint doesn't line up with any other ones. And now we're just going to use our cheater board to mark this. I'll pull that out. And again, I like to start so I can get it in the track. And then real lightly hit it with the plank hammer until it drops down. Get it started. Now back here it's a little wobbly, so I'm going to put a spacer in there. Just adjust that to the right part, the right distance. Again, I'm going to get in and ride the channel until it gets there. You can see this stuff actually really works backwards very nicely compared to some. Again, get it under. Perfect. Cut a few of these at a time. Then this old man isn't getting up and down every 2 seconds. Well, the smaller pieces are where you're not going to be able to get it in the track like you can when you do the longer ones. To be able to slide it back and forth when you're putting these pieces in, it's harder now because you're going to have to use the tapping block or a scrap piece because you don't have the length of the track to be able to slide it back and forth like I've been showing you. But I haven't been damaging the locking system at all using the plank hammer. And what I meant is, like right now, I got a couple of feet here to slide this and get this in the track. Where when I have those cuts, I don't have that couple feet. I only have a 1/4 inch. So this part is no different. You're just going to line up the plank with the plank underneath, making sure the locking systems line up perfectly. Then I'm just going to take the cheater board and mark it. So all that is the same, nothing changed. Come out past a quarter. Again, we'll get this in the track, slide it. And down here, I'll use the plank puller. Everything looks good. Okay, now I just line the plank up again, and now we're just going to use our cheater board to mark these cabinets. Come to the corner, like always, 1/4 inch past, make a mark. Definitely one of these spots where I'm going to need to use my plank puller. So I'm going to kind of get this in place, and I'm going to get my plank puller in there and start hitting it. Okay, I'll do the same thing here. Get it started down here and finish it with this down here. There we go. Now is all I have left is the dishwasher area. And honestly, the less joints, the better. So I'm going to just measure and put some full pieces in here. All right, so that's it. Now, if you're wondering about that cheater board, how did I make that? If you go back to the very first video, which I'm gonna put a link to in the description, but it's titled "Don't Just Start with a Full Plank." Okay, and anyway, that video explains all of the stuff that you might have missed in here and will really make everything make a lot more sense to you. So I would just encourage you to go check that video out and follow along throughout the series. I have probably 2 or 3 more videos I'm going to be releasing in this series as we go through the rest of this house and just break it down from room to room. So there's a lot of great tips you can get from this. As you can see, if you made it to this part, you can definitely see that there's some things that you probably learned. Well, there's still a lot more I want to share with you. We have a few bedrooms. We're going to come up to a main wall here and go into some hallways on the next video. Also, I'm going to put a video out on some vents and couple other things. So be checking for those videos in the future here, and if any of the tools that you've seen me use inside the videos are of interest for you, there's going to be a link in the description for that. And also I'm going to have a coupon code below so you can go and check out samples for Floorette, which is the product that's in this video. It's their Sylvan product. The wood floor is a very good wood floor. I also have a review video below that you can go in the description and click on that and go check that out. They also have lots of great vinyl plank selections, so go check them out. They are one of my favorite plank manufacturers, whether it's wood or vinyl plank. I just want you to know that. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to pray for you. Father God, I pray for everybody watching this video. I pray that you're with them, that you bless them and their families, Lord. whatever they got going on in life right now that they might be struggling with, I pray that you reach down and touch them, Lord, and that they sense that you're there for them, Lord. And I pray that they have a better day, a better week, a better month, whatever it would be, Lord. I pray for this in Jesus' name. All right, my name is Joel the Tender. I'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.